Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host. I'm the founder of StelliumAstrology.com. I'm also the host of this podcast. I used to write horoscopes for Elle Magazine UK, and I am an occasional tutor at the London School of Astrology. And last week we discussed the whether you can hear synastry. It's always been something I've been interested in because you can hear astrology. Astrology is something you can hear, it's something you can see, it's something you can experience. You don't have to believe in it for it to be existing. It's literally a dance that kind of simultaneously exists alongside our lives. It interweaves into our lives. That was my car making that weird noise. By the way, I'm in my car again. Not for much longer. I don't think this is going to have to happen for much longer, guys. I might get back in my studio soon. Details to come in a future episode. But I'm just currently sitting at the local, outside the local Cineworld. I found a nice little parking spot. I'm hoping that it doesn't fill up with people, lots of people. But I'm just literally here for a short period. And I will be just recording a short episode today because I'm limited by the amount of battery I have on my phone and how long the little man in the back seat is going to sleep for. If you're wondering why I'm podcasting in my car, it's because I had a little baby boy who's nearly a year old now, and I wanted the podcast to continue, and I was like, well, you know what, the show must go on. So it happens. I do this on the go. Whenever the mood takes me, really. Today the mood is taking me, so let's discuss. So with synastry, you can hear it. With astrology, you can hear it. It's literally a case of Frank Clifford did this really. He wrote the book. He compiled. He wrote a lot of it, but he compiled the book of music horoscopes, which I'm published in. I wrote an article about the great hip-hop hoax, which I've talked about on this podcast a number of times. Really, really, really interesting story about two friends who conned the music industry. I won't go into too many details, but it's fascinating. And I wrote about it and it got published in that book. But what else is in that book that's really interesting, other than a load of articles about, music and astrology, is actually that there are Frank's created this really clever diagram where it shows the transpersonal planets and the kind of like the major conjunctions, all the mundane aspects, and basically coinciding with musical releases, like what was really popular, like the pop music that was out during those times. I'm so annoyed that I didn't bring that book with me because it would have been really great to refer to it. Perhaps I'll go into a bit more detail next week. But if you haven't got the book of music horoscopes, I'd highly recommend that you buy it. I'll add a link so that you can get a copy if you'd like. But basically, just to cut a load of waffle short, because I don't really want to bore you too much, what I'm trying to say is that just like everything with the transpersonal planets, now I think I say it on the courses that I teach. I may have said it on the episodes I did on the transpersonal planets. They are moving so slowly that they affect us on a much larger scale. They affect humanity really as a whole. So when you get beyond Saturn, you've got Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. Yes, we still talk about Pluto. Yes, he's still included. We are an inclusive bunch as astrologers. We don't like to exclude planets based on their size. We don't like to discriminate. And Pluto is included. In fact, I have been living under the effects of Pluto my entire life. Some people who are Plutonian types, like my chart is, will understand the power of Pluto. I've had a Pluto transit to my Sun. I'm soon to have a Pluto transit to my Mercury and my Venus. My whole life has been going through one Pluto transit to the next, basically. But yeah, these transpersonal planets are actually hugely influential as far as fashions are concerned, fashions and trends. And what is music if not an audible example, an experience of trend and of the fashions? It's kind of as these planets come together, move through signs. Like, I really noticed when I was living in Hackney for a while, I really noticed how let's have a look, we're still recording, that's good. I really noticed how there were lots of craft beer is a real trend, isn't it? It's a real trend. And I noticed that there was a lot of people who were a lot of craft beer places popping up. I was like, what is craft beer? What is this like? It's almost like a steampunky, like a fashion of like brewing your own alcohol. And some places I went to, like there was one place, I can't remember what it was called, it's really nice, but it was very expensive. And it was like it was on some sort of industrial estate, an old warehouse that had been converted into a very fancy, like, I don't even want to call it a bar, I don't really know what it was. And inside it had like these like brewing pipes. It looked really steampunky, but it wasn't, I don't think it was intentionally steampunky. It was just the way that the alcohol is brewed. It looked like a brewery behind the bar. And it just was like so much brass, and it was really interesting. I was thinking, well, what is this? And I was thinking, well, Neptune's in rulership, Pluto is in Capricorn, and that's like about tradition, isn't it, Capricorn? And it's like Pluto stripped everything back, and people are kind of interested in drinking gin. Gin's very much a steampunky thing. It just feels very like Capricorn Neptune to me, and at points Neptune Capricorn Pisces, by the way, that kind of Neptune-y Pisces thing. But yeah, it feels to me as though it's a very it's almost like those two planets, Pluto in Capricorn and Neptune in Pisces, have been sextile like on and off for a while. And it just feels like it's this huge craze that's, I think, very influenced by that kind of slower planetary movement. And it's been going on for years, and it's still to continue, but it's kind of evolving and, developing, and it's quite popular. It's so popular now. It was probably quite a niche thing a little while back, but it's really, really popular. Just like we've got this like... Uranus in Taurus, food, awakening, consciousness, the whole veganism movement, which is just, I remember years ago, I think back in 2006 or 2006, 2007, I was working with a girl who's vegan, and I asked her so many questions about it because I was vegetarian at the time. And I was like, what do I need to do to go to the next step? And she was like explaining to me what to do. And I remember thinking, God, that must be so hard. Which she insisted it wasn't, but it would have been for me, because a lot of the stuff I didn't eat back then, I was a very fussy eater. And it took me a long time to develop the kind of healthy-ish lifestyle that I have today. And I can give some credit to my Pluto transit for that. But what's interesting to me is that these outer planets really are so influential when it comes to fashions. And I was actually going to talk about something else today, but I've gone off on a waffle here, and I think I'm going to stick with it. Like I said, I haven't got that long as far as battery's concerned. And also I feel like I'm a little bit like all over the place talking at the moment, but it just feels like this is what needs to come out right now. So basically the fashions are visible. They're things we experience, like going out to a bar where they sell craft beer. I'm not really crazy about craft beer, but I'm just using it as an example. People who really love gin. I know loads of people that are obsessed with all the different types of gin. Little fun fact for you guys, I can't drink gin with tonic. Tonic ruins gin for me. I know that's a weird thing to say because it's a really popular combo, but honestly, I went through my gin and tonic phase probably back in about 2006. And no, I can't do it anymore. I can't do the tonic. It's the tonic that ruins the gin. And the only gin that I really like is rhubarb and ginger, which is London gin, I think it is. That's the one I really like. So yeah, I'm not much of a gin drinker, and I don't know, up until not long ago I've been almost teetotal, but I've got back into my drinking a bit. I'm back into drinking a bit of wine and a bit of prosecco here and there. But anyway, I'm going on a massive tangent right now. What I'm trying to say is these trends come and they go. When I was speaking to Shelley von Strunkel, who is a rather well-known horoscope columnist, and she writes for, I think she's writing for Vogue, I think she writes for the Evening Standard, all sorts of publications. She's very sought after, and she was a wonderful mentor for me when I was writing for Elle magazine as well. And basically she told me that she got into astrology because she was actually working in the fashion industry, and she noticed that fashion goes in cycles, and it's just like the planetary cycles that take things into fashion and out of fashion again. Now, I think it would be a bit weird for me to talk about fashions without mentioning that the 80s seems to be quite popular right now. And, with Stranger Things that, I've been watching, and, the Kate Bush. Now, this is kind of annoying because this is an off-the-cuff, I'm going on a tangent here, episode. But the Kate Bush, I'm going to look up her chart just to see. Kate Bush birth chart. Please, let's have it. That would be amazing. And we have got... Oh, man. It doesn't look like it's here on astro.com, but we can look at her on Astro Theme. It says here Kate Bush was born on the 30th of July 1958 at 2:30 p.m. I don't know how accurate her birth, that seems kind of specific, in Bexley Heath in London. So it says that she's got sun at 6:52 Leo, ascendant at 12:20 Scorpio, and moon at 5:14 Aquarius. Now I am just going to screenshot that. As you guys know, I'm doing this in my car. I'm doing it as I kind of, as I go. I'm going to have to put astro.com just because I believe if all those other websites have got her chart, there must be one on Astro. No, it's not there. How annoying is that? That's ruddy, bloody annoying. Anyway, so let's have a quick look at her chart and I'll tell you something interesting about it. Okay, so she's currently having Uranus. Uranus in Taurus is currently square her Uranus in Leo, which is a Sun-Uranus individual. Sun at 6 Leo, Uranus at 11 Leo. And her moon is in Aquarius, opposite her sun. So she's born on a full moon. And actually she's got Mars square her sun and moon in Taurus at 5. How interesting. Plus she also has Neptune at 2 Scorpio, and her ascendant's at 12. So actually she's got a T-square with her sun and her moon and her Mars, and then opposite that she's got Neptune and her ascendant, which is actually forming a grand cross, a grand fixed cross as well, interestingly, 'cause that doesn't really budge. That's got longevity, that's got resilience, that's got staying power. But that Sun Uranus is very changeable and resists it. The phrase resistance is futile is popping up in my head, but it's almost like the antithesis of resistance is futile, because she might have a lot of resistance in her chart, but she manages to break the mold, and that is a very Kate Bush thing. Actually, she's not very she doesn't like to she just doesn't fit into any kind of category. She's very unique. Now, I'm not the biggest Kate Bush fan in the world, but it seems like everybody else is at the moment because she's so popular because of Stranger Things. because of this 80s resurgence. And I think that often with these planetary resurgences, with these, popularity, like people coming back into fashion, fashion's coming back into fashion, I think it's interesting because when you look at astrological indicators, it's often something being triggered. I've often thought potentially it might be like Pluto. At the moment, so in her chart, she's got like Pluto at 1 Virgo. And you might think, Pluto's currently in Capricorn at the moment, so it's in a sign that's trine. It's in a nice, easy communication. Now, according to her details here, she was born in the 50s, but she had great success. 1958, so she was born very close to the 60s. So she had great success throughout the 80s. In the 80s, I believe, I think from about 1982, Pluto was in Scorpio. So it would have been sextile. It would have been sextile her natal Pluto. So Pluto sextiling another, its natal position can often indicate, some kind of fashion resurgence in a sense. And what I really like, and not just Pluto, but the other planets, like Uranus at the moment is square her natal Uranus, so it's like bringing her Sun Uranus conjunction back into the spotlight. And what better symbol of Stranger Things than a Sun Uranus native with an Aquarius moon? She is Stranger Things. She is the quirky, strange Kate Bush, and she's just running up that hill. That song, it's very kind of conjures, for me, every time I hear it, I'm like, that's quite Saturnian. It sounds a bit, it's got that kind of Saturn flavour to it. She's got Saturn at 19 Sagittarius, and Pluto is currently working through Capricorn. So I guess really Pluto, among everything else that's activating her chart, which there's plenty, I think she's currently got Black Moon Lilith on her Venus as well. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing because she's got a traditionally Saturn-ruled moon, which is also by modern rulership Uranian, ruled by Uranus, and that's Uranus conjunct her Sun. She's got Saturn in Sagittarius, and I don't know, I just get real interesting vibes, Saturnian vibes from that song. And yeah, it feels like it's epitomising, she's kind of, in the way that Bob Dylan was considered to be the mouthpiece of his generation, the mouthpiece, yeah, the kind of, the person that would speak for the generation. I feel like Kate Bush is, a kind of, I don't know, she's doing a similar job, or she's been thrust into the limelight again through this interesting Stranger Things program, which, by the way, is almost murdering that song for me because it's playing it so much. But it's very interesting to see how fashions can bring people back into fashion or out again. And it's always planetary. You always see it reflected in the planets. She will have had Uranus move over her Mars placement in Taurus. And, Uranus would have squared her Sun, is squaring her Uranus placement right now. I think I looked at, been looking at a few of the kind of major transits. Like I wrote an article about Billie Eilish and her Saturn transit over her stellium and things like that. It's really interesting to follow famous people's transits and think about what's going on with them. So anyway, this was just a kind of like a little digression as far as Kate Bush and Stranger Things was concerned. Interestingly, I think that the girl who plays L11 in Stranger Things is a Pisces with Uranus in conjunction with her Sun as well. Let's have a quick, I know I've talked about her before. What's her name again? Millie Bobby Brown. Birth chart. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast, even though I go on these little, it's quite off the cuff type of thing. Yeah, I don't think we've got her chart on astro.com either. But yes, so she's so she's Sun at 0 Pisces and Uranus at 2 Pisces. So she's a Sun Uranus, which is an interesting thing to observe as well. Which is interesting. I should maybe and she's got Mars at 10 Taurus. Kate Bush has got Mars at 5, and she's also got what's she also got? She's got Moon, Mercury and Neptune all very close together, 13, 18 and 19 in Aquarius, in the sign of Kate Bush's moon. She's got Saturn in Cancer around the same degree that Kate Bush's Venus was at. Is that right? Did I say that she had Venus in Cancer? That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, and she's got Pluto at 21 of Sag, which is around, I think Kate Bush's Saturn was at 19. Did I say it was 19 Sag? So Millie Bobby Brown's got some interesting synastry and some kind of similarities that I think are quite nice. That Sun-Uranus conjunction, echoing that kind of Stranger Things vibe, which I think is quite an interesting coincidence. But anyway, so back to, hearing synastry. I suppose you can hear Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill is very much it's got, even though it's an old 80s song that's just, you wouldn't have even thought anything of it probably if you'd have heard it playing on an old radio station. But it's because it's been brought into the consciousness again. We're suddenly aware of just how much it sounds like that kind of fashion revival that we're experiencing through this kind of planetary dance that's occurring right now. And so it's not necessarily about synastry in a relationship sense. I guess I'm saying, that we can hear the astrology, we can hear Kate Bush's, maybe her transits that are picking up her chart and bringing something old into something new. I find that quite interesting. The planets, particularly the transpersonal planets, the outer planets, seem to play a large role in this whole, fashions and trends and bringing things in and out. And I could say a million things about it. I really could, but I don't really, I don't have the time, and the podcast, I don't want to bore you guys with pure waffle all the time. Another thing that does spring to mind for me is, eating fashions as well. So, I mentioned about Uranus and Taurus, and there are all sorts of things that have come with that, like an ecological awakening. We're all very conscious now, like the fashion brands, the food brands, the medicinal properties of marijuana, and things like that. It's all very interesting, but also things like how everything started to get quite rustic, and how we wanted to get back to basics with food and things like that. And also, so how many people have got like Instagram and TikTok pages that are food pages, and how companies are having to now kind of dance to the beat of the social media drum as far as marketing is concerned. So now companies are realising that nobody wants this fake rubbish on adverts. They want to see real people trying out products and reacting in a very genuine way. Not that I see too many genuine reactions on Instagram or TikTok or anything, but it's that sense of real people wearing makeup, real bodies wearing fashion, people with blemishes, people with skin conditions, people who aren't your typical run-of-the-mill beautiful, the kind of different beauty in, celebrating beauty in all of its forms, basically. I just think if you think about the outer planets and how they're moving through and what they're doing, it's very interesting. Neptune in Pisces as well. I think I talked about it as, people getting their accounts cloned on social media, which, by the way, happened to me in the end as well, which is really annoying. I only have one. I do actually. I have two Instagram accounts. I have the Stellium Astro one, and I also have the Stellium Astrology podcast. Those are my two accounts, but I really only use the Stellium Astro one, and not that much either. But the other one is, I do have a Twitter at Stellium Astro. I do have a TikTok. I think it's at Stellium Astrology, and a Facebook page, Stellium Astrology UK. So I've got a few of them, but you know, I never would contact you and go, oh, hey, whatever, you know, I can't remember what she said. Hello, beloved. Would you like a reading? I'm just not, I don't do that. Okay, guys, just FYI. So, yeah, but anyway, so Neptune in Pisces, this is where we're having kind of like a mass spiritual resurgence as well, why astrology's become so popular all over again. You know, it's so interesting to observe these larger transits and these kind of fashions that occur with them, and it will be interesting to see what happens when Pluto dips into Aquarius. I think we're going to have a very different hierarchy as far as that's concerned. You know, I think maybe Prince Charles may end up being king pretty soon, and who knows about political hierarchy in the UK. The USA is having a bit of a rough time of it. It's going through its Pluto return. So there's a lot of interesting things to watch as far as mundane transits are concerned. And very interesting when you think about the fashions. And, you know, you can see it on the TV, you can hear it in the music, you can taste it in the food, you can taste it in the alcohol, you can taste it in the water. You can hear it through people's conversations and buzzwords, the way that language is evolving, the way that, you know, companies market and how things are evolving. In a technological sense, you know, one of the things that happens when you get into astrology is you suddenly want to study everything, every subject, because you suddenly realise that astrology is everything and everything is astrology. And like I said at the beginning, you can't, you know, you can't dismiss it. I mean, loads of people do dismiss astrology, but astrology is happening whether we are consciously engaging with it or not. You don't have to believe in it. You do not have to believe in astrology. You just have to be aware of it. And that's the difference, I think, between belief with most things and with, you know, I'm convincing my partner. He's not a believer in this type of thing. And I'm convincing him that there is something to it and that he doesn't have to believe in any of it because it's just happening. I've proved many things to him as far as that's concerned. So, yeah, this turned into a different conversation today. It wasn't intentional. But hopefully it's been useful, and I will continue with my planned episode next week. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. All the links are in my very own personal link tree that I've created. Sign up to my mailing list, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, screenshot and email to me if you want to be included for that almanac diary, the Magic of Eye diary, towards the end of the year. And stay tuned, because in a couple of weeks it will be the happy birthday, the second birthday episode for the podcast. Okay, you guys, thanks very much for tuning in today, and take care. Bye now.